Okay, number 14. Start with that hypotenuse, always in the same spot. Now I look for my angle. It is over here. Put a dot there, and at the right angle, in between my two dots, is the adjacent. Across from that is the opposite. Go through and mark out the one that doesn't have anything. So A has 20, O has 19. So I want the one that has opposite and adjacent. Tangent has opposite and adjacent, so I know that I'm using tangent. Now you can use theta, or like I said before, we can just call it x. So opposite is 19, on top of adjacent is 20. We are finding the angle, which means we do the inverse. So I'm going to switch that so it's tangent inverse on the other side. And then I just type that in the calculator. $19 divided by 20. So that is x equals, and we're rounding to the nearest degree, which means whole number, so we are rounding up to 44 degrees. Once again, if you want to see 15 and 16, I'll work those out on the paper and upload it. Section 5. Okay, this is section 5. Find the length of the side labeled x, round intermediate values to nearest tenth, and then use that to calculate the next value. So basically, intermediate means the step in between. So what this is telling you is each of these has 2 steps. We're going to have to find the missing side, and then we're going to have to use that to find x. And I'm going to go ahead and probably do all of these because this is the hardest section. So what we're going to do is we want to find x, but what you can see here is this has been split into 2 triangles. The original triangle is not a right triangle, but a line has been drawn down so that I can figure out this side and use it to figure out this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this triangle first. In this triangle, I know it's right because these two have to add to 180. That makes this perpendicular. I know that this angle is 23 degrees. And I know this side is 7. What I want is the side that's in both triangles. I need to know that one's length so that I can figure out x. So I'm going to utilize this, and I'm going to call this y for now. And I'm going to find y so that I can figure out x. So let's do the green triangle. In here, a hypotenuse is across at 23 in the right angle. In between is the adjacent, so y is my adjacent side. And then across from that is going to be the opposite. Same steps as before. I'm going to go through and mark out the side that doesn't have anything. A is what we labeled as y. O is 7. H is the one I do not need. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is tangent. Okay. Tangent is opposite and adjacent. Those are the 2 that I had left. So I'm going to say tangent of the angle is 23, because that's the angle inside the green triangle, is equal to opposite on top of adjacent. We're going to do the cross multiplication. So 7 is equal to y times tangent of 23. Remember, tangent of 23 is like a radical. Once it goes there, it stays together. So I can put it in the calculator that way. So I'm going to divide by tangent of 23. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. If you just divide by 23, you will be wrong. Okay. Pull up our calculator. We have 7 divided by tangent of 23. So we know y is equal to 16.5. Okay? So now we have this side. And we can use that to figure out x. So when it says this, we just found the missing side, and we are going to use that to actually find x. So we finished step 1 here, we got to do step 2. So I'm going to plug this in. I've got it already in there. And we are going to do labeling for the second triangle. So I've got 43, and I've got the right angle. Across from the right angle is h. And between 43 and the right angle is the adjacent. And then across from 43 is the opposite. I have x for the opposite and 16.5 for the adjacent, so the one I'm not using is h. So we are using tangent again. This time it's got 43 as the angle. Opposite is x. Adjacent is 16.5. We've got to use our cross multiplication. And luckily x is on top. Don't know if you've noticed yet, but that makes it so you only have to do one step instead of 2. Biggest mistake people make here is they multiply 16.5 times 43. Remember, this is like inside a radical sign. That's why I keep saying it. Put that in the calculator. And we get 15.4 because they asked us to round to the nearest tenth. So that is our answer. Let's go ahead and do number 19. In number 19, we have 2 triangles split again. X is over here. I think I need this one in the middle, so I'm going to call it Y. And the reason that I know I need the one in the middle is because that's the one that's a part of both triangles. So I can use this triangle to figure it out and then use it to find that. So it's always going to be this one that splits the 2 triangles. And later on you'll have to figure out how to get that side. But right now let's work on this. So across from the right angle is h. In between the number or the x and the right angle is adjacent, and across is the opposite. We need the opposite because it's y. We have h, so a is the one I'm not using. So we're looking at O and H. O and H is sine. Our angle is 25. So sine of 25 is equal to opposite on top of hypotenuse. Opposite is y. Hypotenuse is 39. We're going to do our cross multiplication to get y by itself. We've already got y by itself, so we can put it in the calculator now. Whoa, where did all that come from? says round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to round up to 16.5. So that is the side in the middle. So y is 16.5. Now we're going to use that to get x. So let's go to that second triangle. So hypotenuse would be x, because it's across from the right angle. In between 40 and that would be the adjacent. Across from 40 is the opposite. So we are looking for x, which is h. We have o, which is y. Adjacent goes away. O and h means sine, so we're going to use sine again. Our angle this time is 40. Opposite goes on top. We know opposite is y, and we just said that was 16.5. And we need to figure out h, which is x. Let's go ahead and do our cross multiplication by putting a 1 under there. So I've cross multiplied. I need to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide next. When I do to one side, I got to do the other. X is now by itself, so I can put that in the calculator. So x is equal to 25, and we're rounding to 1 decimal, so 6 rounds up to 7. So that side is 25 and 7/10. And I'm only do one more for time's sake. Let's go ahead and do this one since it's cleaner. This is number 20. So once again, I'm going to have to find this side in the middle. I'm pretty sure we've noticed by now this is the one I can use for both triangles, so I always want to label it. I need to get that, so let's go ahead. Here's the right angle. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. In between is the adjacent, and across is the opposite. Knock out the one that doesn't have anything. In this case, that is h. O is y. A is 19. Let's go ahead and say O and A means tangent. The angle is 44. That would be opposite on top of adjacent. That is y on top of 19. Cross multiply. And we can plug that in the calculator. So our answer is y equals 18.3, because that rounds down. And we will have to plug that in to find x. So I come back over here. We now are looking for this side. I'm going to do the same things. H is across from the hypotenuse. Adjacent is next to. And opposites across. This is the first time that the adjacent and opposite have switched. Make sure you're watching out for that. So now I want to mark this O out because there's nothing down here. A and H is cosine. Cosine of 25, because that's the angle on this side. Adjacent is what we just found. That's the y, 18.3 over x, because that's the hypotenuse. So we are going to cross multiply. Divide by cosine on both sides. And we just got to type that into the calculator. So our answer there is 20.2, or 20 2/10.